How does school finance work? When public school districts have enough money, they can provide an exceptional experience that allows every student to thrive. But when districts aren't adequately funded, it's often necessary to make cuts in order to operate within the available budget. This might mean fewer extracurricular activities, less staff or lower wages, larger class sizes, and fewer elective course options and opportunities for students. Basically, schools that are not properly funded are at risk for delivering a less rich student experience. The idea of adequate funding in Wisconsin is not new. It's actually a requirement of our state government, and it's in our state constitution. State lawmakers all swore under oath to uphold the Constitution, including providing adequate funding for public education. School districts are primarily funded by state aid and local property taxes. Most state aid is distributed on a per-student basis. State equalization aid is a specific type of aid that equalizes the statewide impact of local property taxes. This means that districts with higher property values, like Wauwatosa, get less aid per student. Less aid means higher local taxes to make up the difference. Once state aid has been determined, school boards set the local school tax levy. But school boards can't just tax whatever they want. Taxes can only be increased up to the revenue limit, which is set by the legislature and governor through the state biennial budget process. So if state aid increases, school boards don't need to tax as much to reach the revenue limit. If state aid decreases, school boards have a larger gap to fill and may consider increasing the tax levy. But at the end of the day, the total combination of state aid plus the tax levy can't exceed the revenue limit. School funding was designed around the Consumer Price Index, or CPI, which represents the average change over time paid for goods and services. We all know this when we see it, like when the price of eggs goes from $2 to $4. It's really pretty simple, because it's the way school funding formulas were designed. When you adjust school funding at the same rate as CPI, schools continue to have the money they need to operate. There's a second way to fund schools without raising local property taxes, and that's by putting the same dollars into what's called per-pupil categorical aid. This is a straightforward and uncomplicated way to fund schools, again without any impact to local property taxes, because per-pupil categorical aid is counted separately from the funds under the revenue limit. Sounds perfect, right? When the CPI and the revenue adjustments are similar, whether funding is received through per-pupil categorical aid or revenue limits, school districts have the funds to operate successfully, responsibly, and sustainably over time. But when the CPI increases faster than revenue adjustments, there's a gap. That's because costs continue to go up in alignment with CPI, but revenue adjustments haven't kept that same pace. So this gap represents the difference between what a school district can spend, the revenue limit, and what it needs to spend, the CPI. For more than 10 years, CPI has increased steadily, but the revenue limit has not. And in 2023, CPI is historically high at around 8%. This means that the gap has been steadily increasing for 10 years. Essentially, this growing gap has created a structural fiscal cliff, and we're right on the edge. And this isn't just Wauwatosa. Every public school district in the state of Wisconsin receives funding this way. The Wauwatosa School District has received more financial aid each year since 2019. And yes, more state money is being invested into public education than ever before. But that investment was through an increase to equalization aid. It did not provide any new spendable revenue. It just reduced local tax levies. That's right, no new spendable revenue. But wait, our financial audits highlight the district's strong fiscal responsibility in using taxpayer dollars. And the Wauwatosa School District has one of the strongest fund balances in the state of Wisconsin. That's true, but we need to take action now before we have to dip into our piggy bank. With the proper financial support, school districts will be able to continue to provide an exceptional student experience. And you can help. Contact your legislators and advocate for your local public school district.